liquidity risk. So apa dia liquidity risk ni? From the term liquidity, we understand, kita faham dah liquidity ni apa kan? It's liquid. The base word is liquid. Liquid tu apa? Cair lah kan? Kecairan. Cecair. Biasa liquidity ni maksud dia kecairan. Tapi the base word is liquid. Where this word come from? It from the meaning word yang maksud apa dia yang kecairan tu? Cair. Maksud cair tu apa? Maksudnya sentiasa the flow of money tu is maksudnya the bank is solvent. Bank tu ada duit. Maksudnya kecairan. Sentiasa kecairan. Kalau kebekuan tu maksudnya tak cair lah. Bila tak cair tu duit tu beku. Tak ada duit nak mengalir. Itu maksud dia. So now when we are learning liquidity risk, nak tahu apa liquidity risk, so kita kena tahu apa makna dia lah kan. Okay. So liquidity ni kita tahu apa konsep dia tu, you kena understand that dia menunjukkan yang bank tu compensate for expected and unexpected balance sheet fluctuations and to provide funds for growth. Jadi bila kita sebut pasal liquidity ni, kita tak boleh lari, we cannot run from the balance sheet of the bank because balance sheet, bank punya balance sheet ni, it shows you the asset and liability. So bila kita kata dia show asset and liabilities tu, kita boleh tahu bank ni ada duit ke tak ada duit when you refer to their balance sheet. So it represent a bank's ability to accommodate the redemption of deposits and other liabilities and to cover the demand for funding in the loan and investment portfolio. Okay, so it represents a bank's ability to accommodate the redemption of deposits and other liabilities to cover the demand for funding in the loan and investment portfolios. Remember when we learn about credit, risk semua tu kan, the moment we extend financing to our customer, automatic dalam balance sheet bank tu akan ada account receivable. Why? Because account receivable tu dia menunjukkan yang payment of installment by that financing yang kita baru offer kepada customer. Walaupun duit tu tak masuk lagi, but receivable tu dia dalam accrued punya basis. Accrued tu maksudnya kita record dulu tapi masukkan duit tu kemudian. So a bank is said to have adequate liquidity when it can obtain needed funds by increasing liabilities or selling assets promptly and at reasonable cost. So maksudnya sekiranya bank tu dia ada kecukupan dalam liquidity-nya, cukup duit bank ni. So maksudnya dia tak ada masalah dia nak duit ke, time-time tiba-tiba dia perlu money. So there shouldn't be any problem that the bank can have that source of fund without incurring any cost. Okay, itu maksudnya bank is in liquid position. Tetapi if they are trying to get a liquidity, but in order to get the liquidity, they need to incur certain cost. So that probably memang dah expose the bank to the liquidity risk. Okay, so there are various definition. Macam-macam definition ada sebenarnya untuk liquidity ni. If you read different books, they could or might give you different definition. Dekat buku ni lain definitionnya, dekat Basel define lain, dekat buku Malaysian authors kata lain. They have various of definition of liquidity. Okay, for example, Basel, okay, has defined liquidity risk as the ability of a bank to fund increases in assets and meet obligations as they become due without incurring unacceptable losses. Dia similar macam saya sebut tadi, without incurring any cost. Dia kata ayat lain dia unacceptable losses. Okay, another ways how to define macam mana mereka define liquidity ni, risk of inability to raise funds at desired cost or without incurring cost. Risk of inability to meet the short-term obligations, specifically because they are unable to convert assets into cash without incurring a loss. So you have to remember, kena ingat balance sheet, macam mana rupa balance sheet. Okay, kita ada balance sheet, we have asset and liabilities. Under the asset side, in the asset side we have inventories, we have cash, we have asset. fixed asset, current asset semua tu. And account receivable. Semua tu bawah asset kan. Okay. So maksudnya whatever it is, bila the bank need money, they should be able to get the money straight away from the asset side. Maksudnya from the cash, dah tak ada cash korek pula, tengok dekat fixed asset where can be converted into cash kan, or tengok kepada account receivables. Tapi nanti kalau semua tu dah tak ada, itu dah jadi illiquid. That's why to cover any extra expenses by the bank, they should be able to get that source of funds without incurring any cost. Okay, so itu kita nak kena faham konsep liquidity ni. Kalau maksudnya dia tak ada incur any cost, maksudnya dia tidak ada liquidity problem. Maksudnya tak adalah exposure to liquidity risk. Risk of inability to honor obligations in meeting demand from depositors for withdrawal of their deposits. Okay, deposits, as well as its inability to source for replacement sources of funds to continue supporting its assets and business growth. Okay. The banks and liquidity risk exposure ni you can see from different angle. Okay. Being an in financial institution, okay, being a financial institution, financial institution have a very high exposure to liquidity risk. Possibility nak ada problem in liquidity tu sangat tinggi bagi bank. Why? Because bank handle people's money. People deposit money to the banks, right? Bank ni handle money. Banyak sangat duit bank handle. Sebab that's why it's very high exposure in facing liquidity risk. Possibility tu sangat tinggi untuk menghadapi problem dalam liquidity. Okay, if there's not enough liquidity, it could cause lack of confidence to the customer. Remember, dalam last class I did mention about bank run semua tu kan. Bank run tu maksudnya rempuhan bank tu. Meaning bila customer dah loss of trust, dah tak ada trust kepada bank because try keluar duit, tak ada duit dekat ATM machine. So they have loss of confidence towards the bank, so it could affect the liquidity. Okay, and then moderate measure exposure ni, contoh macam insurance company or takaful companies, exposure to liquidity risk dia rendah compared to the banks. Why? Because dia tak perlu keluar duit hari-hari. Tapi bank perlu because every day people come to the bank. If not, people walk into the bank, every day people go to the ATM machine and try to withdraw some money. Kan? But insurance company, they don't have to face that kind of scenarios because insurance company ni, when there is an accident and when there is submitted claim by the policy holders, then only they need to keluarkan duit tu. They need to pay the policy holder. That thing not happen every day. Kan? Tapi bank macam mana pun, financial institution, it happens every day. People come and go every day, every second. Okay. Low exposure, contoh EPF, kan, KWSP. Pun itu very low exposure to liquidity because orang hanya akan keluar duit dekat EPF ni bila pension time je. During pension time. Pension time tu ada yang 55 tahun, ada yang 58, 56. It's not like bank. Bank hari-hari orang perlu duit. But dalam KWSP, orang hanya perlukan duit daripada KWSP ni when the time of their pension time. Kan? So sebab itu dia kata low exposure. Right class? Now, what are the causes of liquidity risk? Apa cause liquidity risk ni? Okay, I think boleh tak kita nak break sekejap 5 minutes kelas? Boleh
Boleh, doktor.
Kita break kejap Saya perlu minum air lah. Okay, can we continue?
Yes, Doktor.
Yes, Doktor. Okay, Alhamdulillah. Alright. So what are the causes of liquidity risk? Adalah sebab-sebab dia kan. What are the causes? Maksudnya sebab-sebab berlakunya liquidity risk ni. Again, it's refer to the balance sheet and how to look at it. Kita nak tengok kepada balance sheet. Maksudnya dia liquidity risk ni arise for two reasons. Dua sebab. Arises for two reasons. One is because of liability side of liquidity risk, which another one is the asset side of the liquidity risk. Okay, so liability side tu maksud dia apa? Liability side of liquidity risk ni menunjukkan the risk occurs bila depositors or policy holders cash in claims. So kalau liability side tu of liquidity risk, it occurs when depositors or policy holders cash in claims. Itu dalam liability side. Asset side, okay, kalau asset side tu sale is faster, asset that is sale is faster and short period may require lower price. Okay. Bila kita sebut liability side liquidity risk, itu maksudnya when depositors or policy holders cash in claims. Maksudnya with low cash holdings, the bank may be forced to liquidate asset too rapidly. Sebab bila customer go to the bank, contohlah hari tu I pernah cerita dekat you, bila ada changes of rates outside, so people start to come to the bank, try to refinance their house, try to restructure their financing, so it could disturb the banking book. Maksudnya kita kan remember the whatever it is recording in the balance sheet is based on accrual basis, where we already put in the 30 years of financing. Suddenly, after 10 years or 5 years, customer come to the bank want to claim the cash. Because of the changes of rates out there, they come to the bank, they want to refinance their house. So it's no longer, bila refinance tu, mungkin bank akan rugi ataupun bank akan untung. Biasanya bank rugilah. Sebab customer will shop around and looking for the best, the lowest rates or the best price so that they can get more money out of refinancing. Okay, so because of that, itu yang kita kata tadi tu liability side liquidity risk and then asset side liquidity tu. Okay. Faster sale may require much lower price. So asset side liquidity risk can result from loan commitments. Remember, asset side liquidity risk tu kita ada account receivable. Account receivable exists because of what? Because of financing yang kita beri kepada customer kan. Sebab itu dekat sini kata loan commitments ni, liquidity requirements from take downs of funds can be met by running down cash assets, selling liquid assets or additional borrowing. Okay, so dia kena tengok dua-dua, asset side and also liability side. Macam contoh tadi tu kan, liability side tu, in the liability side of liquidity risk, bila kita kata depositors, policies are cash in claims kan. Bila bank, dia ada lower cash holding, dia tak cukup duit, dia duit sikit lah, lower cash holding in hand dia. Okay, it requires the bank to liquidate assets too rapidly. Bila customer ataupun policy holders kedatang dekat bank kan, nak claim duit macam saya cerita tadi, dia nak buat refinancing, dia nak extra cash whatever from the bank, and if at that very moment the bank don't have enough cash, okay, so it will maksudnya dia ada lower cash holdings tu, so the bank perlu liquidate asset untuk dapat extra cash tersebut kan. So kalau terlalu banyak customer come to the bank to request more money, maksudnya the thing where the bank need to change, they need to liquidate asset tu berlaku sangat cepat, sangat kerap dan sangat cepat. So when it happens too rapidly, okay, they sometimes will lead the bank to borrow from other bank. Bila dah tak ada cukup duit, asset side dah tak boleh nak cover, asset side dah tak boleh nak cover kehendak duit daripada yang dia perlu pakai, guna. So the bank need to borrow from different bank. Okay. So asset that is sold in faster and short period may require lower price. So this will make losses to the financial institution because biasanya untuk asset yang kita boleh liquidkan segera, biasanya dia lower price dia sikit. So itu akan menyebabkan bank perlu duit lagi. It can cost the bank a loss. Okay. So bila kita kata asset side liquidity risk can result from loan commitment tadi tu, happens bila disbursement of loan increase utilization of loan commitment. So maksudnya yang dalam asset side pula, bila you start to disburse the financing, bila financing dah approve, you disburse kepada customer, so asset side kita duit dah berkurang. So itu yang berlaku tu because of loan commitment. So how to do this? To meet demand untuk financial institution may use cash reserve, selling liquid assets or additional borrowing. Still again, dia perlu pinjam daripada bank lain nak dapatkan liquid tu. Okay. Kita selalu fikir kita je tak ada duit, saya pinjam duit kat bank. Bank pun sama. Bank boleh ada keadaan yang dia tidak berduit, tak cukup fund dia. Okay, dia tak cukup fund. Okay, liability side liquidity risk tadi tu. So it's rely more on demand deposits. So bila dia rely more on demand deposit, so they need to be able to predict the probability of distribution to the net deposit range. Maksudnya dia kena make sure that they need to calculate the difference between deposit withdrawal and deposit addition. Maksudnya dia punya difference tu mesti positif, dia tak boleh kurang. Untuk make sure that they are in liquid position. So how do they manage this? Macam mana dia nak manage asset side and liability side ni? Okay, there's two ways to manage this, which through purchase liquidity management and also stored liquidity management. So that is how the bank actually handle dia punya liquidity management. Mana dia nak handle. Okay, bila kita kata purchase liquidity management ni, okay, it refers to adjustment to a deposit drain that occurs on the liability side of the balance sheet. Bila purchase liquidity management ni, bila sebelah liability tu tidak ada kecukupan, so what they would do is like purchase liquidity management. You boleh tengok kepada contoh kat sini. Okay, this one, if you look at this purchase liquidity management ni, you boleh nampak balance sheet immediately before and after deposit drain. Kat sini asset, sebelah sini liability. This one is the asset side, this is liability side. This is before the drain, before ada berlakunya ketidakcukupan. Yang ni after the drain. So how they do it, okay, kita nak tengok. Dia boleh explain benda ni. Macam mana dia buat tu, you tengok dekat before the drain, you can see deposit, financing 200, and then on the liability side, deposit 170, borrowed amount 10, and then borrowed funded 10, and then others, liabilities is 20, so dia punya total tu 200. Okay, so sekarang ni, after the drain, duit tak cukup, you nampak deposit 160 and then 10 and then 20, nampak tak dia drain tu dia 160 tu, dia tak cukup, dia tak compare to 170, so 190 kan, 200 and 190, so maknanya dia tidak balance, the balance sheet tu is not balanced. So how do they adjust it? Okay, adjusting to a deposit drain through purchase liquidity management. Dia adjust, macam mana dia nak adjust supaya jadi balance semula. So what did they do? So they need to borrow additional funds. So if you can see here, kat bawah ni, how do they adjust it? Dia borrow additional fund. Nampak ni? Dia borrow 20. Kat sini kan borrow fund dah 10 kan? Yang ni 10 sebab deposit dia 160. Tetapi macam mana sekarang ni dia nak make sure balance again. So they need to borrow additional fund, additional 10. So dia akan kembali jadi 200. Ini yang kita kata adjusting to deposit drain through purchase liquidity management. Okay, where dalam panel A ni tadi ni kita explain situation before and after deposit drain. Before the drain shows kita punya balance amount in total asset and liabilities. So after drain, due to net deposit drain there is shortage. Kita nampak shortage of 10 kan. So macam mana dia nak buat? They have to make additional borrowing. Okay. Now this one stock liquidity management. Stock liquidity management ni macam mana pula dia buat? It has to liquidate asset to meet withdrawal. Maksudnya the adjustment tu have to be done on the deposit drain occurs on the asset side. Bila kita kata stock liquidity management ni, you are handling benda yang ada drain dekat asset. Tadi purchase liquidity management bila ada drain berlaku di liability side. Stock liquidity management ni di sebelah asset. Ketidakcukupan tu berlaku di sebelah asset. Okay. Alright, so nanti you akan tengok dekat sini contoh lagi. Okay, this one is how it looks when it comes to stock liquidity management. Macam mana dia berlaku. Okay, you tengok dekat panel A ni, you can see this, it's balance. Okay, 200, right? Okay, so sekarang ni dia berlaku on the kita cakap macam mana tadi Ini stock liquidity. Stock liquidity ni maksudnya based on this, you can see that total asset and liabilities is 200. Okay, 200 million. So kita assume bank ni dia hold cash reserve of 20 million. Ni nampak ni. Cash ni this balance sheet sebenarnya dalam millions lah dalam million. So kita assume bank ni dia cash reserve dia adalah 20 million. Okay. So due to deposit drain, the amount of deposit reduced to 170. Okay. Deposit tu dia reduce kepada 170. Okay. Amount deposit reduced from 170 kepada 160. Ni bila drain tu dia berlaku 160 dekat sini. So as per panel B ni, total asset and liability reduce kepada 190. Because of the drain tadi tu. Okay. Because of the drain yang berlaku tu. Okay. So it reduce the total. Okay. Total become 190. Okay. From 200 million. So bank is utilizing stock liquidity management. Dia guna tools how dia nak manage balik liquidity ni. Dia using the stock liquidity management ni by reducing cash reserve menjadi 10. 10. Sebelum ni 20, right? So dia reducekan cash reserve to become 10. Okay. Dia reducekan reserve to become 10 million. So for this case, bank dia tak perlu untuk up deposit dia through borrow funds. Okay, dia tak perlu nak up it through borrow funds. Okay, so that's why dia nak allocate cash reserve bank tu. Bank lost income opportunity by investing cash reserve in more profitable investment. So in daily management of liquidity risk, bank can mix both approach. Maksudnya dia boleh buat approach purchase liquidity management and also stock liquidity management. Okay. Okay, this one. Asset side. Okay, risk from loan commitments and other credit lines. Sama ada you boleh guna reserve ataupun you can borrow from others. Either way. Okay, ni how macam, tapi for your information, nak berlaku this situation, facing liquidity ni sangat susah bank nak berlaku liquidity problem ni sebenarnya. Ini sekiranya berlaku, inilah yang bank tu buat. Okay. And then investment portfolios and asset side, liquidity risk. So maksudnya interest rate risk and market risk of the investment portfolio can cause values to fluctuate. Remember, masa kita touch on market risk and credit risk, if it could lead to imbalance between both asset and liquidities. Okay, and then based on financing gap, defined as difference between average loans and average core deposit. So ini nak tunjukkan macam mana kita kira sama ada bank tu dalam keadaan solvency atau not solvency. Maksudnya kalau bank tu ada liquidity risk exposure tu, kita kena kira, kita tengok the gap of financing. Sekiranya gap financing, dia punya formula tu, financing gap tu is average loan minus average deposit. So kita kena tengok lah, kalau dia negatif maksudnya dia akan ada gap yang besar, so they require more fund. Okay. So these are the sources and uses of liquidity. Okay. Sources of liquidity that we can get liquid for the bank is from the cash type assets, maximum amount of borrowed funds, and also excess cash reserve. Ini liquidity dia. However, these liquidities will be used up untuk what purpose? For borrowing funds. Okay, to borrow funds. Okay, so this one is the ratios involved for the liquidity. Okay, nak tunjukkan what are the types of ratios yang biasa kita kira untuk liquidity coverage ratios. Okay, this one other liquidity risk control measures. Macam mana you nak control? You must use the contractual maturity mismatch. Mismatch ni maksud dia the mismatch between asset and liabilities. Okay, concentration of funding, available and unencumbered asset, market related monitoring tools. Okay, so this one the planning that need to be done. So when they want to do the liquidity management, so the most important thing is they need to do the measuring and coping with liquidity risk and associated costs. Maksudnya cost-cost yang terlibat tu, when you want to seek of asking for borrowed funds, you have to pay other banks. Those are the costs. Nak buat funding, nak minta, nak cover daripada bank-bank lain pun semua tu ada cost, additional cost. Because reserve tak cukup. Okay. This one, these are just the list of responsibilities. How are you going to manage? Siapa yang akan manage? Okay, fund providers kita siapa yang boleh bantu bank if let's say they are in liquidity problems, what kind of exercise or assets or instruments that they can use, what kind of investment that they can do. Okay, maybe mutual funds, pension funds, allow for seasonal effects. Benda-benda ni lah important to anticipate the expected pattern of withdrawals in crisis. Okay. This one, identify size of potential deposits, set internal limits, plan the sequence of asset disposal to meet liquidity needs. These are the strategies that the bank can do. This one on just that you can read through what are the things that the bank can do when they want to put in a strategies, a long-term strategies or short-term strategies in managing their liquidity. Okay, among all, they would have a dedicated team, the dedicated employees or team that they will be assigned to in charge on the liquidity of the bank when it comes to crisis. Bila berlaku any financial crisis ke, economic crisis ke, so the bank need to form a group of people that will specifically handle and in charge how to manage the liquidity risk in the bank. Okay, and then this team will identify the accounts or portfolios that is actually most likely would be a problem. Maksudnya portfolio mana yang akan mendatangkan kesusahan kepada bank atau akan withdraw banyak sangat duit at one time. Okay, so estimating size and run-offs, ini pun these are the dedicated teams will identify these run-offs and sources of borrowing to actually cover the run-offs. Establishing maximum limits for borrowing by subsidiaries and affiliates. So these are the steps or strategies that they do to make sure that the bank can handle their liquidity so they would not expose to a lot of liquidity risk. specifying the sequencing of asset disposal in the event of a crisis. So this one, bank runs, remember I did mention before, bank runs is the worst case scenario that could happen to the bank when they cannot handle their liquidity risk exposure. Maksudnya ini dah worst case lah ni. Dah tak boleh selamatkan lagi dah. Terus customer dah lost trust at all. Then dia akan rempuh bank, do the bank run, they will withdraw at one time. All the customer come to the bank and withdraw their money from the bank because they are no longer have confidence to the bank. Okay? Alright. So this one, macam mana kita nak try to avoid this bank run, the bank should be able to predict the possibility of happening the bank run. Okay, so semua ni dia kena do the certain analysis lah. Okay, so habis dah topik ni. But anyway, saya nak bagi tips sikit lah untuk final exam. Nak dengar tak?
Nak.
Oi, laju je kan, baru dengar ada banyak suara. Okay, so final exam, we are going to have 4 questions only. Okay, final exam hari tu saya ada tak saya mention final exam ni is semua essay. Did I mention?
Yes.
Kan, final exam is all essays, consist of all 4 questions sahaja. Each question carries 25 marks. So kalau 4 tu maknanya total of 100 marks. Okay. And then topics that covered, we covered a topics, 4 topics je. Yang banyak-banyak kita duk belajar daripada awal kelas hari tu sampai ke nanti week 14. Final exam keluar 4 topik sahaja. Okay. 2 topics is from the midterm, before the midterm. Okay, and another 2 topics yang kita cover selepas midterm. Cukup tak tips tu? Senyap.
Tak cukup.
Tak cukup. Okay, saya tambah lagi. 2 topics yang before midterm tu akan masuk topik credit risk and topik governance. Dengar tak? I'm not going to repeat.
Dengar, tengah catat.
Okay, very good. So itu sahaja tips saya boleh beri. Yang lagi 2 tu sendiri cari, sendiri belajar. It's all will be covered yang after midterm lah. Okay. So 2 for sure, credit risk and risk governance framework tu masuk. Lagi 2 tu you kena belajar. Baca. Okay? Boleh? Kelas?
Baik, thank you doktor.
Cukup lah tu kan? Dah banyak tips dia bagi tu.
Boleh.
Okay? Alright. So, kita nak kena plan sekejap. We are going to plan about kita punya kelas. Hari ni today is actually 5th, right? So next week kita memang ada kelas 8 hari bulan, tak ada masalah kan? We have class as usual, right?
True.
Boleh tak next week juga we do another class? Kalau boleh cari ni, saya nak face to face. Boleh tak? Decide Monday. Sama ada hari Rabu ke, Selasa ke, Khamis ke, kita buat face to face another class. Possible tak?
Sebaiknya kita try cari yang siang lah kan?
Kalau boleh lah.
Boleh, nanti kita try tanya office.
Rasanya boleh tak? Kan? Dapat buat 2 jam jadilah. Bincang dengan KMA, boleh? KMA,
Boleh.
KMA. Dua-dua ni you all semua ada malam ni kan? So you guys please discuss. Try to find one day other than Monday lah. Monday tu memang kita punya class as usual. Other than Monday untuk kita buat another class next week. Ataupun kalau kita tak boleh nak combine face to face tu, kita buat asing-asing pun tak apa. Maksudnya KMA hari lain, KMD hari lain. Tak perlu nak sama. Is that possible? Senyap pula.
Boleh.
Boleh.
Boleh kan?
Boleh.
Because insyaAllah I am free next week, the whole week. Except for Friday tu I tak berapa free lah. Friday I tak free. I free Monday tu memang kita ada class as usual kan. Selasa, Rabu, Khamis tu saya free. Any day. I mean anytime. So maybe KMA you boleh let me know when you are free so we can do our class, and KMD pun can let me know when you are free so we can do our class. Boleh? Would that be okay?
Sure, Doktor.
Boleh Nanti kita decide. Boleh tak? Nanti bagi tahu saya lah. I mean class rep let me know.
Okay, Doktor.
So can we stop our class now? We end our class.
Yes.
Boleh So this one is recorded. Nanti I will share the recording. Macam mana saya buat sebelum ni lah. I will share. I will give your class rep. Class rep will share with all of you. Okay?
Okay.
So can anyone close the class with us, Kifara and Surah Wal As?
Recording stopped.
Ya, Doktor.
Saya baca doa. Siapa? Afif? Afif ke?
Ya, saya Doktor.
Okay, go ahead Afif. Afif ni
Salam.
KMA ke KMD?
KMD Doktor.
Afif, go ahead.
Saya Nur Afif.
Nur Afif.
Ya. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wal 'asr innal insana lafi khusr illa allazina amanu wa 'amilus shalihat wa tawassaw bil haqq wa tawassaw bis sabr.
Alhamdulillah.
Thank you,
Thank you
Doktor.
very much. Okay, thank you all. So I see you next week on Monday insyaAllah. Yeah?
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you,
Assalamualaikum. Good night.
Thank you, Doktor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doktor.